Hey everyone, Sip here with another Planet Zoo video. Today I'm recreating one of my favorite buildings at the Antwerp Zoo, the Egyptian Temple. By the time this video has been uploaded, you can already find a blueprint on the Steam Workshop. I will put a link in the description. The Egyptian Temple was designed by Charles Servet and is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, building still standing at the Antwerp Zoo. It was constructed in 1856 and Servet chose Egypt as a source of inspiration for this building, intended to house African mammals. At the time he was definitely not an exception. Ever since Napoleon went on an expedition to Egypt and reported back about ancient Egyptian culture, Europe's interest in the ancient land was sparked again. All throughout the continent, references to ancient Egypt popped up or were rediscovered, from obelisks in Paris to pyramids in Rome. Similarly, in Antwerp, a growing industrial center on the Scheldt River, people like Servet found inspiration in ancient Egypt. This Egyptomania was found often in the world's fairs at the time as well. And it is at the Egyptian court in the Crystal Palace in London where Charles Servet finds a direct reference for his temple at the Antwerp Zoo. Initially, the temple was not decorated with hieroglyphs, but after 2 years, in 1858, beautiful wall paintings designed by Egyptologist Lodewijk Delgeur had been added to the facade. The hieroglyphs on the facade tell the story of the Antwerp Zoo and of the Egyptian temple that sticks out like an exotic element. Those who already downloaded my recreation of the temple have probably already noticed that I used billboards to recreate the hieroglyphs. It actually took me a really long time to find the right pictures at the right angles and turn them into billboard-sized images ready to use in the game, but I am really pleased with how it turned out in the end. So we'll probably see that later on in the video when the billboards are actually there. Now I also wanted to take some time to talk about the upcoming Africa pack. It's not yet confirmed by Frontier and they are kinda like, don't read too much into this, because Nicholas Linerider and Leaf Productions have found references in the code of the game for scenery, North African scenery. They found like tags, like you have the South America tag and stuff like that, you have the aquatic tag. They found references to a North Africa theme, so it's very likely that we will get an Africa pack, as they have also found references to African species like the African penguin, the fennec fox, and the white rhino, I think. Oh, and the meerkat as well. So yeah, so that's probably gonna be Frontier's next DLC. You probably already have heard about this or read this on the forums or on Reddit, or if you are in the modding Discord, you've definitely heard this or even seen the things in the code itself. But the big question is, and we've debated this kinda as well in the modding Discord, like the North Africa theme, what will this be? Will this be, if we even get it, because it's entirely possible Frontier just picks something else for Africa in terms of scenery. But a lot of people are kinda like, they could go for Egypt because quite a few zoos have like Egyptian theming. You have the Antwerp Zoo with this temple. It's probably one of the more famous examples for Europe. But then in the United States you have the Memphis Zoo. Memphis, of course, being a reference in itself to ancient Egypt. But yeah, they have like a big Egyptian theme going on there. There was also a Egyptian temple at the Berlin Zoo, but I think that got destroyed in the Second World War. That one was actually heavily inspired by the temple in Antwerp Zoo. So yeah, Egyptian theme is definitely something that is quite common in zoos around the world. Now, the main argument against this, someone brought that up, I think it was Randy or something. His argument against it is basically, well, it's kind of an outdated idea to use Egyptian themes for African animals. Like, it's definitely the case for Antwerp Zoo, where it's not the most progressive thing to have the Egyptian temple and then have generic African animals like a zebra or a giraffe. that don't actually live in Egypt, but it's just like this ancient or this 19th century mindset to reference Africa in this general way. Like people, when they heard Africa, they thought about Egypt, and it didn't really matter for people whether or not there were zebras or giraffes in Africa. Like for them, this was a natural setting for these kind of animals, just because Egypt was in Africa. And nowadays we even have, even at the beginning of this of the zoo, when this temple was built, they had even Indian elephants, which is definitely not a species from Egypt or Africa at all. So it doesn't really matter to them. That doesn't take away from the beautiful aesthetic of the Egyptian temple, and Egyptian temples in other zoos tend to be quite nice, in my opinion. So I think it's still quite a good contender for the North African theme. Now another possibility that popped up was like Moroccan or Moorish architecture. We have had an example of that in the Antwerp Zoo as well. We have the Moorish temple. You can check out that episode if you haven't done that yet, with the okapis in them. So yeah, they could go for like this Moorish style of building, but I think like Nicholas has pointed this out as well, and why they wouldn't go for this is because we have already the Indian theme, like the Indian build set and stuff like that, which is really similar to like Moroccan Islamic influences with the different kind of buildings pieces and stuff like that. So we already have something that's kind of similar, and they wouldn't go for a similar thing if they can go for something completely different, such as Egyptian style. Now another possibility, and this was I think proposed by Andy then, or not Andy, what am I saying? Randy? I don't know. I'm sorry if I'm getting names messed up. But another possibility would then be like they have the cities in the Sahara Desert. What is it, like Timbuktu and stuff like that, where you have these mud castles with the sticks sticking out and stuff like that. Might put a picture on screen of that. But that's another possibility because it is North African, because it is quite typical. But then my argument against that would be like we already have mud walls, and we could just put in sticks in those walls ourselves. So it would be kind of a pointless theme set if you just had walls with sticks sticking out of them. So because we can make them ourselves. And another counter argument against that is I feel right now Africa in this game is represented in a really stereotypical way. Like the African theme set or the African scenery pieces are literally just mud buildings or mud things. So that's like the stereotype of, oh, Africa is just a bunch of mud huts where people live in mud huts with like thatched roofing and stuff like that. That's like a really stereotypical way of looking at Africa. And like the other thing is the safari items and scenery pieces. Like that's also quite a stereotype of Africa. Oh yeah, Africa it's all safari, or it's all this or that. No, I think a good route would be to like emphasize the cultural diversity of Africa. So Egypt would be a good way to do that. Morocco or Moorish culture would be a good way to do that. Another mud set wouldn't really do justice to Africa, in my opinion. What could also be quite a nice thing they could do, but it's quite unlikely, is to go kind of like the Wakanda route and go for a completely fictional science fiction Africa set inspired by African or black science fiction, like Black Panther, and then inspired of course heavily by Wakanda as a country and the aesthetic of Wakanda. That would be really great if we have like some futuristic kind of building set referencing, of course, the Marvel movies about the fictional African country, which is technologically advanced, and that would also help like in debunking some stereotypes about backwards Africa or something. So I feel like Wakanda theming could be quite nice. Now it's not really that impossible that we get something like that, because if you think about it, Frontier has done something similar with Australia, in the sense that they didn't go all out on like stereotypical Aboriginal culture references or anything. They got a few pieces in there, of course made by or like with the help of artists from that culture. But they also had like these like futuristic pieces, the roof pieces there. I can't remember the name of them now. But yeah, they had like how is it called? The plastic pieces or something. They look quite futuristic, and I think Best in Slot even used them to make an airplane. So it's definitely not like a traditional thing you would find in a zoo. It could be used in science fiction builds and stuff like that. So it's definitely not unusual, or it wouldn't be out of Frontier's way to make a Wakanda theme. By now I have also put in the billboards, as you've probably seen there when I was doing the pillars. I've also changed the pillars to be a bit more looking like what they actually are. And I'm doing the interior here, so those are the stables of the animals. These stables were actually really retrofitted in the 80s, like they really did some big changes for animal welfare, and then more recently they renovated the entire thing again. Just to have a better welfare for animals. Like previously I found some images, like they had like a, what was it, some kind of duiker. It was not the red forest duiker, it was another species of duiker. But they had them in here, just like in the interior as a habitat. So I don't think they could go outside, or they wouldn't go outside that much anyways. But now it's just all for zebras and for giraffes, and then the other side for the Indian elephants. So yeah, I had a bit of I had some difficulties like with these pillars, because they were all like at a certain angle, quite an awkward angle. Then when you copy this whole thing over, you want to copy it to the other side, it's not really aligned, and then you have to fiddle with it, and yeah, it just took me like the time I spent on the outside. I think I spent as much time on the inside, and even with like copying these pillars, there's so many elements and they're not always that easy to select, and then you have to delete something, select something, then undo it, then select that thing. I mean, selecting in this game is really a pain in the ass sometimes. Like you can see here, selecting these pillars, then I place them in the wrong spot, then I have to delete them, and yeah. So, but I really liked how these pillars turned out. Like I used the African signs, like these long signs, to give it that special patterning there, and I used these leaf pieces on the bottom there to give it that extra detail that it has, and that turned out really well in the end. Okay, and then I'm copying over the entire thing to the other side, and of course that's where I run into some issues with everything, or not everything, is aligning with the opposite side. And to fix my OCD, I really had to go back in there and align everything, because even the slightest offset copied over, like it's mirrored and everything, then it's not aligned that well, and yeah, it took quite some time to get everything right, especially because when these pieces are at an angle, you want to move them, and you have this like weird bug, or it's not even a bug, but like it just picks like whatever the center of mass or gravity would be as a reference point, and then you don't always get these right angles to move stuff, and then everything gets messed up. But enough ranting about that. I've gone on about this quite some time. We were talking about the Africa pack, of course. So yeah, I was talking about it. So my top 3, I would say, of scenery that I would want to see in a future Africa pack. First place, of course, Egypt, because I could really use like Egyptian pieces for this temple. The fact that I had to create my own pillars, while they do look nice, it would be awesome to have like pharaoh heads or something that I could use. Then second place, I would say Wakanda. Like, it would be really awesome if we had like a giant Black Panther statue or something, like, you know, that one from like when they go with the Quinjet, fly into the giant shield or whatever it is. They first pass by this giant statue of a Black Panther. Yeah, a statue like that would be really awesome. Just to decorate our zoos, or to have it in the background or something. And just the general like science fiction aesthetic would be a really nice addition to Planet Zoo, because it's something like, I don't know if it's true or not, because but I've noticed this when I went to the Africa Museum in Tervuren here in Belgium as well. So like they were quite, or there was quite some criticism on the museum, because it's, well, historically it is a colonial museum, and so there's quite some criticism about like the references to colonialism and stuff like that in the museum. But more recently they had a big change, and they wanted to like include African art or Congolese art into the museum as well. And I must say, like, I don't know if this is true again, but like, if you think again, if you think back at Wakanda, or even like the Thor Ragnarok movie, like they had Sakaar, I really found it similar, the art style of the modern African art, and those kind of science fiction elements. But I could be wrong again. I could be horribly stereotyping African culture again, but that is not my intention. Okay, over here I'm finishing the last bits. It's just some plants in the center, and I put in an African skeleton. I will explain that a bit more in the real life game. And we're now live inside of the game, and in the distance there you can see the Egyptian temple in all its glory. So it really fits in nicely in this area. With this little statue, or this little area with the elephant statue. I think it's a reference to Kaimuk. I will talk about Kaimuk in the next episode, or in one of the next episodes when we do the Indian elephants. But yeah, let's have a look at all these nice little hieroglyphs here, because they actually do tell a story about the Antwerp Zoo and its history. Now, I don't know the full history or the full story about it, what everything means and stuff like that. Did I just hear? Okay. So like this text, or these hieroglyphs on the top here, are about like Belgian King Leopold, and they actually talk about him as if he is some sort of pharaoh. Like they talk about him as the king of Upper and Lower Belgium, as if it's Upper and Lower Egypt. It's quite funny actually. They talk about him as if he's the son of the son of the sun or something, like a reference to the sun god and stuff like that. So it's quite funny. Then all these people who bring animals to the Antwerp Zoo, like this is supposed to be Antwerp, like a personification of Antwerp. The hand has nothing to do with the Congo. It's just the myth about the foundation or the founding of Antwerp, about someone throwing. Jesus, these buffaloes are loud. About someone throwing a hand into the Scheldt River, and then that's the place where they found Antwerp, or founded Antwerp. Then yeah, like over here, then the city Antwerp talking to the gods or something. These are, I think, the first director of the zoo, and stuff like that. This is again, I think this is the worst quality hieroglyph or wall painting I had. Like I had to use couple of different images, and as you can see it's darker in some spots. So but this is Antwerp, and I think then this is like the king or something, who offers the temple or offers some wolves to the zoo or to the city. Yeah, I don't know what these mean. And then this again is Antwerp, but instead of the king giving something to Antwerp, over here it's Antwerp giving, or the zoo giving something to the king. And then again, all these different people bring animals to the Antwerp Zoo. That's basically like what is depicted on all these hieroglyphs, people bringing, from all over the world, bringing animals, bringing stuff to the Antwerp Zoo. What is all these? Okay. Then we go inside, because as I promised I would talk about this. This is an elephant skeleton. I got this from the Steam Workshop. Let me quickly check who made this. Like it's part of a set, but it's also its own, like yeah, I think it's this. Let's see. It's made by Vimzaz42. He's even online right now. So yeah, it's a nice little skeleton of an elephant. Now why have I put this in here? You won't find it in the Steam page or Steam downloaded version of this temple, because it's just another one or another person's like blueprint on the Steam Workshop shop, and I don't want to like just copy that and put it in my blueprint. But the Antwerp Zoo actually put the first elephant that they ever had, Jacqueline. We will talk about her when we arrive at the Indian elephants. But they actually put her skeleton in the temple. They put her skeleton in the Egyptian temple. So I thought it would be nice to reference that by putting her skeleton in here. Now I was kind of debating of putting in like NDP's modded scenery mammoth skeleton, but I decided in the end not to, because of two things. First of all, it's a mammoth, it's not an elephant. Second of all, the tusks. So in the actual skeleton the tusks are really short, while on NDP's mammoth skeleton, which is absolutely awesome by the way, if you haven't checked that out yet, do definitely download it and have it try in your zoo. Actually I do have it in here, I think. Like I do have the mammoth pack or the mammoth scenery pack in here. So yeah, you can see it's also quite smaller compared to the elephant skeleton. The tusks are way too big for what I wanted. But yeah, it's an awesome mod. It also has some other statues. NDP is a really great modder. Even has like wall paintings or like cave paintings on there. So a really great mod if you want to use that. Yeah, that's it for this Egyptian temple. Now next episode I will probably do like the savannah area over here with the giraffes and the zebras. And then after that I will probably do the Indian elephant, and then I can talk about who this little elephant here is and who Jacqueline was, and yeah, that will be really interesting, so do look out for that. But I will end the episode here with this beautiful shot of the Egyptian temple. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, but for these like pharaoh faces in the pillar, I used the panda statue. So if you this is the panda. It worked out really nicely, but kind of funny also. But yeah, we end with this beautiful shot of the Egyptian temple. If you like this episode, please give it a like, and if you want to see more of this series, or even if you want to see my other series, I'm doing like a marine reserve, and I have another little project coming up in the future as well, then press that subscribe button and you will be up to date with all my videos when they come out. See you in the next video. Goodbye.